All right, here we go. Okay, we're recording. All right. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so today we will continue with the reading on Venerable Mahakaccana. So this today's reading is on various incidents in Venerable Mahakaccana's life. Before this, we had talked about some of the encounters he had, um, and also his conversion to the Dhamma. So we've covered that. That's been recorded and I guess uploaded into the YouTube channel. So today, various incidents relating to Venerable Mahakaccana's life. So neither the suttas nor the commentaries offer us very much biographical information about the Venerable Mahakaccana's life in the Sangha. And this is true, because I remembered even before reading the suttas, as how we do it in the twin groups and the retreats, even before, everybody knows Venerable Ananda, yeah, because almost every, Majjhima Nikaya or whatever sutta out there is the famous "Thus have I heard," and everybody would know, well, who said that? Well, Venerable Ananda said that, right? And even in some temples, I think they do have Venerable Ananda. Not very often, but so the most famous ones, of course, are the two senior disciples, Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Mahamoggallana. So that's a very common sight in a lot of Theravada temples. You'd see one on the left, one on the right, next to the Buddha, and the one with a darker skin is Venerable Mahamoggallana. I remember I used to have this big question mark when I visit some temples, and for some reason they would paint Venerable Mahamoggallana's skin almost teal color, almost teal, like I wouldn't say blue or bluish green, but very dark, and some would be very gray, and then I'm like, would there have been such a human being alive to have that color of a skin? But apparently there's a story behind that, which we didn't really cover when we were reading Mahamoggallana's chapter, interestingly. So I remember being amused by that. And even so everybody knows Venerable Sariputta, everybody knows Venerable Mahamoggallana, people know Venerable Ananda. And now the name escapes me, but there's a Venerable whose alms bowl is never empty. The name escapes me now. I don't think it's Venerable Upali. No, it's another one. So
Venerable Anuruddha.
no. I don't think it was a senior disciple. I'm not exactly sure, but in Thai temples, they would sometimes put his statue outside, not necessarily in the shrine hall, but sometimes in the garden, sometimes with an umbrella. Um, and he was known to never have an empty alms, but whenever he went out for alms, which signify his generosity, giving, dana and all that. Venerable Anuruddha was interesting as well, but I don't think it was Venerable Anuruddha or somebody else. So what I was trying to get at was even in the suttas, right, we don't see Venerable Mahakaccana appearing a lot. Um, but he obviously was really good in going through detailed expositions, and the other monks would go to him. So his role is not a minor one. The focus rather on his role as a teacher, especially on his detailed expositions of the Buddha's brief statements. From the settings to the suttas in which Mahakaccana appears, we can infer that after his ordination, he spent most of his time in Avanti. So what they're trying to say is maybe this is the main reason why he didn't appear a lot in the suttas, because he wasn't really in the same location as the other senior disciples or the Buddha himself. So in the early suttas, you'll see that the Buddha was mostly in Veluvana Monastery, or the Bamboos Grove, in Rajagaha. And then later on, when he was older, then he shifted different, side of the country, literally different countries, yeah. Instead of the Magadha kingdom, he now went to the no, I can't remember. Is it the Kolia? At this point, it'd be nice to have the map, There's one book. There was one book that used to have this map. I gave the book away, but one of the venerables used to write a book. I think the book was called The Map of the Journey or something like that. And it was a very nice map of the different kingdoms that we normally read in the suttas, which of course is present day, like northern India, borderline Nepal, right? So towards the later part of the Buddha's life, he spent most of his days in Savatthi, in Jetavana Monastery, and also in the palace of Mikara's mother. But not so much in Avanti. So that could be a reason why we don't see Mahakaccana a lot in the suttas. Maybe he spent most of his time in Avanti. Usually it seems he dwelt quietly in seclusion, though when occasion arose, he gave instruction to others. Periodically, he would go to visit the Buddha at his main places of residence. And it seems likely that he also sometimes accompanied him on his preaching tours. So probably in the earlier, when the Buddha wasn't so, I mean, the monasteries were built mainly for the rains retreat, as in the 3 months, the monsoon season, for practical reasons, and there's a story behind that as well, um, where eventually, the monks say, they're not, it's not practical, and then the Buddha said, okay, rains retreat, you can stay in a monastery. But prior to that rule, they were like what Bhante Vimalaramsi and Sister Kema used to say. They were like traveling, what's the word they use? Uh, uh,
Vasa? Vasa?
yeah, Vasa. No, Vasa means rains retreat. What I mean is they were like, I was about to say caravans, but that doesn't sound very nice. Basically, they were like traveling parties. So the Buddha and his disciples, his monks, itinerant, I'm not sure what that is. Let me Google that. But basically, they were like traveling parties or traveling groups. So they would go from city to city, county to county, and then just traveling from place to place. Yeah, yeah. Itinerant. Yep, traveling from place to place. Okay, I learned a new word. Itinerant. Itinerant. Yes. So traveling from place to place, and then just spreading the Dharma or the teachings along the way. So that was how they were. Yes, itinerant. Yes. Um, And then, of course, later when he got a little bit older, I think the Buddha traveled less, but Mahakassapa still did into his later years. Uh, so now I lost my train of thought. So yeah, so I guess so here let's continue. Periodically, he would go to visit the Buddha at his main place of residence, and it seemed likely that he also sometimes accompanied him on his preaching tours. The three suttas of the Majjhima Nikaya in which Mahākaccāna appears in the role of expositor open at three different locations. In Kapilavatthu, which is where the Buddha's birth. No. He wasn't born in Kapilavatthu. Sorry. He grew up in Kapilavatthu. That is the capital of the kingdom, where his father ruled. And Rajgarh was you can say he's the king, benefactor king after the Buddha gained enlightenment. So before the Buddha gained enlightenment, during his travels, he bumped into King Bimbisara of Magadha in and Rajgarh is the capital of Magadha. And after teaching for a while, then the king offered the Buddha at that time, the Bodhisattva, residence and at like kind of chaplain or spiritual advisor to the king or something like that. But the Bodhisattva refused. He said, no, I need to continue on my journey to find the end of suffering or discover the truth or whatever. I can't remember. It was and King Bimbisara asked the Bodhisattva to promise him that if he gained enlightenment or he discovered the ultimate truth to the end of suffering, that he would come back to Rajgarh and teach King Bimbisara is the story. Okay. And then of course Savatthi is the capital where King Pasenadi rules, and where Anathapindika offered the Jetavana's grove to build the big monastery. Okay. If anyone ever has a chance, I think nowadays the journey through all these pilgrimage places or sites is probably easier. Because the last time I went once in 2003 to the different sites. It's a tough journey. I don't think I can do it if the road conditions haven't improved. I don't think I can do it now, not with my back problem. Um, but yeah, if people don't have that problem of travel, or if the roads are better now, I don't know. I'm assuming yes. Then it is worth a travel because then it makes the whole when we are reading the suttas or the different disciples characters all this come to play, it's easier to visualize, let's put it that way, that these people were real. Okay. And these places existed. Okay. 2,600 years ago. um So Rajgir, there isn't much left. The hills, of course, are still there. The caves are still there. Last when I went in 2003, Veluvana not the monastery, the park, Bamboo's Grove was still a very nice, well-kept park. Very, very nice. Um, uh, Vulture's Peak, again, also is like a tourist place. Savatthi, interesting. Not much left, the ruins, but it's still there. Kapilavatthu, really almost nothing left, unfortunately, I was told. I don't think we went. Did we go Kapilavatthu? I'm not sure. But the places that were the archaeologists have excavated the most is Lumbini, the birthplace, um, Savatthi, Bodh Gaya, of course. Bodh Gaya was, do you know the story behind? So when the invaders came many, many years after, uh, before the monks fled for safety, they covered the original temple with sand, with whatever, so that it looked like a hill. Because if they didn't, the current temple probably wouldn't be there. But I'm not sure if the current temple is the original temple. Doesn't matter. I can't remember. It's been so long. Um, but anyway, all these are just stories, right? At the end of the day, it's more important to know the practice. Okay, let's come back to here. As these cities were relative to the geographical extent of the Ganges Valley, widely separated, and as all were far from Avanti, this suggests either that Kaccana spent long periods accompanying the Buddha on his journey, or that he would travel to the different monastic centers where the Buddha resided when he heard that the master intended to stay there for some time. We do not find in the text indications that Mahakaccāna entered into close friendships with the other leading monks, as for instance Sariputta, Mahamoggallana, and Ananda did with one another. He seems to be one who generally lived aloof, though he did not place a strict emphasis on seclusion in the manner of one like Mahakaccana, nor did he seem especially stern in his asceticism, not to the level of Mahakaccana at least. He was ready to assume teaching duties on request, as we shall see, but we find that he always appears in the suttas in the role of expositor and elucidator of the Dhamma to others. We do not see him engage in person-to-person dialogues with other monks, as we see in the case of all the above-mentioned elders. Neither do we see him address inquiries to the Buddha, as even the wisest of the bhikkhus, the Venerable Sariputta, often did. True, Venerable Sariputta did engage in some conversations or inquiries with the Buddha, even after enlightenment. But Venerable Sariputta's aim was, I think we read some of the suttas before, that time, his aim was to, again, expound the Dhamma to the audience, whoever was there. His absence is conspicuous in the Mahāgosinga Sutta, wherein the other outstanding disciples gather on a full moon night to discuss the ideal bhikkhu who could illuminate the forest. We've read that before. Surely, however, if Mahakaccana was present on that occasion, he would have described such a monk as one skilled, in the detailed exposition of brief sayings. Mahakaccana did grant ordination, as we saw above in the case of Sona, though his pupils, despite the words of the Anguttara commentary, were probably not very numerous. One was the Bhikkhu Isiddhata, who even while very young had impressed many of the older monks with his incisive replies to difficult questions on the Dhamma. There can be little doubt that it's Isiddhata's skill in tackling subtle points of doctrine reflects the rigorous training he must have received from Mahakaccana. On one occasion, when Mahakaccana visited the Buddha, he received special homage from Sakka, king of the gods. This occurred when the Buddha was dwelling at the eastern park at Savatthi in the mansion of Megara's mother. The Lord was sitting surrounded by a company of great disciples on the occasion of the Pavarana, the ceremony of mutual criticism among the monks that terminates the annual rains retreat. I don't know why the word criticism is used here. It's not really to criticize. It's more, if they broke certain rules, then it's an opportunity to admit their mistakes, to be open about it, to be honest about it, because that is very important to clear the heart of it. Yeah, ask for forgiveness, clear everything, move forward, things like that. So it's a good practice, um, so that there's no guilt, right? Yeah, so I'm not sure if criticism is the right word anyway. Um, So because Mahakaccāna regularly used to visit the Buddha in order to hear the Dhamma, coming even from a long distance, the other elders would always reserve a seat for him in case he should unexpectedly turn up. On this occasion, Saka, along with his celestial retinue, drew near to the holy assembly and prostrated himself before the Blessed One. Since he did not see Mahakaccāna, he thought to himself, it would be good indeed if the noble elder would arrive. And just at that moment, Kaccana approached and took his seat. And when Saka beheld him, he grasped him firmly by the ankles, expressed his joy over the elder's arrival, honored him with gifts of scents and flowers. Some of the younger monks were upset and complained that Saka was being partial in his display of reverence. But the Buddha reproved them with words, monks, those monks who, like my son, Mahakaccana, guard the doors of the senses, are beloved both among devas and humans. He then pronounced the following stanza of the Dhammapada. Even the devas hold him dear, whose senses are subdued. Like horses trained well by a charioteer, whose pride is destroyed, and who is free from corruptions. That Kaccana was actually one who devoted close attention to the mastery of the sense faculties is borne out by his discourses, which, as we shall see below, often emphasize the need for guarding the doors of the senses. And the commentaries record two curious series of events, both of which stem from the impression that the elder's physical form made on the minds of others. One of these, reported in the Dhammapada commentary, involved a young man named Soreya, who was the son of the treasurer of the city of the same name. So one day, the youth, Soreya, was driving out of the city in a carriage en route to a bathing spot together with an intimate friend and a merry band of companions. So just as they were leaving the city, the Venerable Mahakaccana was standing at the city gate, putting on his outer robe before entering to walk on alms round. And when the youth Soreya beheld the golden-hued body of the elder, he thought to himself, oh, that this elder might become my wife. Or may the hue of my wife's body become like the hue of this body. Very odd thinking. At the very moment this wanton thought passed through his mind, Surya was instantly transformed from a man into a woman. Startled by this inexplicable change of sex, he jumped out of the carriage and fled before the others could notice what had happened or what had occurred. Gradually, he made his way to the city of Takasila. His companions searched for him in vain and reported his strange disappearance to his parents. And when all attempts to trace him proved futile, his parents concluded that he had died and they had the funeral rites performed. Meanwhile, the woman, Surya, on reaching Takasila, met the son of the city's treasurer, who fell in love with her and took her as his wife. So in the first years of their marriage, she gave birth to two sons. And previously, while a man, Surya had fathered two sons through his wife in his native city. So thus he was a parent of four children, two as a father and two as a mother. This is so bizarre. Okay, so one day the former intimate friend of Surya came to Takasila on some personal business. And Lady Surya, now he's a woman, saw him in the street and called him into her house, revealing to him the secret of her mysterious metamorphosis from a man into a woman. So the friend proposed that Surya should offer alms to Mahakaccāna, who was living close by, and then beg pardon for him for having given rise to such a lewd thought. The friend then went to the elder and invited him to come to the lady's house for alms on the following day. And when the Venerable Mahakaccana arrived, the friend brought Lady Surya into his presence, informed him of what had happened long ago, asked him to pardon her for that transgression. And as soon as the elder uttered the word, "I pardon you," Lady Surya was transformed back into a man. Shaken out of all worldly complacency by this double metamorphosis, Surya determined that he could never again lead the household life. I wouldn't either. He took ordination as a bhikkhu under Mahākaccāna and after a short time attained arhanship together with the supernormal powers. So very interesting. Can't imagine if that happened to me. I'd go berserk. It's like, oh my God, greatest nightmare. Okay. Vasakara, the chief minister of Magadha under King Ajatasattu. So now it's King Ajatasattu he was Prince Ajatasattu when his father, King Bimbisara, was the king of Magadha. Again, the long story cut short, Prince Ajatasattu was under the influence of Devadatta, and so he overthrew his own father, threw King Bimbisara into the prison, and became king himself. After which, after some time, King Ajatasattu repented. He realized his mistakes, but by that time, I think his father had passed away in the prison. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a better position. So then, yeah, King Ajatasattu became king. He did repent. He did become a disciple of the Buddha in the end, you know. So Vasakara, in this case, was the chief minister of King Ajatasattu, but he was less fortunate, though his misfortune sprang entirely from his own pride and obstinacy and not from some force outside his control. And the commentary to the Majjhima Nikaya reports that one day, when Vasakara saw the Venerable Mahakaccana coming down from Vulture's Peak, but Vulture's Peak is near Rajgarh or Rajgate, present day, he exclaimed, "He looks just like a monkey." So odd. Such an exclamation seems strange. Exactly. I don't know what's wrong with um um of how could uh, 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 how could uh, Vasakara think like that, right? Sorry, I just realized let me pause this for a second. I hope you can see the document now. My apologies, I forgot to share it earlier. Yeah. Okay, so Raj here, atonement. So you're saying atonement, that could be a word used instead of criticism. Yeah, good point. When the monks come together at the end of the rains retreat. Yeah, I think atonement could be a good word. Definition online. The true meaning of atonement is to make amends, repair a broken relationship, especially with God or with ourselves, and achieve reconciliation through acts that satisfy or expiate, that's a word I'm not familiar with, for a wrong, often involving remorse, penance, or sacrifice, to become at one again. It's about undoing consequences, balancing scales, restoring harmony. Yeah, restoring harmony, correct. After a transgression, prominent in religions as a path to forgiveness, redemption, and spiritual cleansing. Yeah, I think that's the closest word. Instead of criticism, atonement, probably. I think I would be more comfortable with using that word. Thank you, Raj. Okay, where were we? After Vasakkara saw Venerable Mahakaccana come traveling down from Vachaspri and said he looks like a monkey, uh, which is so weird, right? Yeah, even here, the commentary from the author says such an exclamation seems strange, particularly as Mahakaccana is described in the text as being especially handsome and graceful. Whatever the reason for the remark, news of the incident spread and eventually reached the Buddha. Blessed One said that if Vasakkara would go to the elder and beg his pardon, all would be well. But if he did not ask pardon, he would be reborn as a monkey in the bamboo grove in Rajgarh. And this was reported back to Vaskar. As the chief minister of the kingdom, Vaskar must have been too proud to beg forgiveness from a Manicha monk. Thus, reflecting that whatever the Buddha says must be true, he resigned himself to his future fate. And made preparations for his next existence by planting trees in the bamboo grove and setting up a guard to protect the wildlife there. Goodness me, can you imagine how some people think, their thought patterns? Isn't that amazing? I bet you till today, there are some people who have such thought patterns and it just baffles me. It's like somebody's giving you a solution that literally will solve the problem, and you're going, nah, not going to take a solution. In fact, I'm just going to prepare for what's going to happen. Yeah. Anyway, so he went and set up a guard, planted trees there. It is said that sometime after his death, a monkey was born in the bamboo grove who would draw near when people call out Vasakkara. Circumstances of the Venerable Mahakaccana's death are not recorded in the text, but at the end of the Madhura Sutta, Mahakaccana declares that the Buddha has attained Parinibbana, so it is evident that he himself outlived his master. As you remember, not a lot of the senior disciples. Mahakaccana did, Mahakassapa did, Ananda did, and as we read now, Anuruddha did, but Sariputta didn't, Mahamoggallana didn't. Um, yeah, it's about okay. So we'll leave the next chapter to the next time we come together to read this book, the elaborator of brief statements, as in sometimes when the Buddha gave a brief statement and then no questions. Okay, I'm not gonna go back to my quarters. And I thought it was very, I'm going to stop the sharing here. I'm also like, I picked that up from the Buddha nowadays because I used to be like trying to dig out, I still do, make sure my students understand what I'm talking about when I'm trying to teach them. But now I'm like, quick, any questions? Nowadays, I try to be a bit cheeky and I say to them, um, if you have any questions, say now or speak up now or forever hold your peace. And then they start laughing. But I think it's a very efficient way, the Buddha is very efficient. Thank you, Madam Nanda. The Buddha is very efficient in the sense, So he's like, okay, I've said my stuff. Any questions? No questions. Goodbye. I'm gonna go and rest. Probably he's got a bad back or something. I don't know. And then, the monks would probably go, what just happened? Oh no, we didn't ask the question when we had the chance. Now, who can we ask? Aha, there's Mahakaccana nearby. Let's go ask him. So that's what happened. And then Mahakaccana, if he happens to be there, he gets sorted out. So he becomes the elucidator of brief statements. How funny. Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Nanda. I do appreciate your thoughts. Thank you. Uh, I will get better. Okay, so any questions, comments, any further stuff anybody would like to say? I think I've probably said too much today. Oops, sorry. No?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Raj.
Hi. Sorry, I'm outside at the moment. There may be a bit of traffic noise. If you can't hear me clearly, then maybe I'll talk next time.
I think we can.
Okay, perfect. Well, to begin with, I want to say sorry for joining in late. I didn't see the notification, but as soon as I saw it, I joined in. So sorry about that. And the other thing is about the asking questions, because you said if someone has a comment, you would like us to share it. So, for many years, I used to work as a teacher, and I also used to ask for questions. And when I noticed that the students don't have too many immediately after the class, I changed my strategy a little bit. And I used to say, any questions? And if I got no response, I would say, that's all right for now. If you have any other questions another time, I'm always available. Feel free to reach me anytime you want. So in a way, I kept the door open for them to come with questions anytime they wanted, but I got the exit when I wanted it after the class. You see what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. I have to admit, when I say such a thing to my students, I say in a little bit of a cheeky tone. So they do know that I'm semi-joking as well.
Correct.
Um,
Yes. Okay.
yeah. So I play with my students a little bit, you know. But it's kind of like child psychology.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually what I tell them to do is during their practice during the week to write down all their questions in the notebook.
Correct. Yeah.
And that I'm always open. Like even just a couple of hours ago, one of my senior students just I teach music, right? So she texts me some questions based on her music and all that.
Mhm.
So yeah, the reason why I use such it took me a while because the trust building is the difficult part. I realize.
Of course.
Uh,
Right.
yeah, that is the biggest hurdle. But once the trust building is overcome, then my goodness, they start shooting questions like,
Correct. Correct. I
yeah.
hear you.
I get questions that sometimes I go, geez, you're 10 years old and you can ask these questions. How come adults don't ask these questions? Very, very cute. This morning I taught a 6-year-old, and because it was her first lesson, she has had other teachers, music teachers before, so it took her a while. I had to like play with her a little bit before she really opened up.
Correct. Yes.
And I've tried a number of times. So I use the 6 hours, but I compress it into three. Because I've kind of from the early beginning when I started experimenting with this with kids, I felt that 6 or 5 steps the child will lose they will lose the steps. So I
Correct.
compress it down to three, make it a little bit simple,
Makes
and
sense.
guide. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I said to Bhante Dhamma before, I don't aim to bring these kids through to the jhanas and all that. That's not my intention. Just enough to make them learn more efficiently and be happy kids. Um, and she's 6 and she caught it on really quickly, almost instantly. Like very easily when I asked her, can you think of a happy thought? Took her maybe a while, but then after about 2 minutes, she was like, eh. I said to her, you don't have to tell me your happy thought. Doesn't, you don't have, you can think about it. Then we had a conversation about how to relax the head. And she
Mhm.
caught on to that really quickly as well. And then, when those first two steps happen, the smile automatically happens. Um, and I was just, again, so amazed. And I always compare when I give the same instruction to a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, the older, when they more into the teenage, the trying to get the happy thought, even the first, is
Mhm.
like a huge challenge. I don't understand why. But with
I
the
think the
same
younger they are, the closer they are to God.
I don't know about that, but I've tested quite a number of kids. I mean, I still need to experiment a little bit more, but I'm working on, see, if I continue to teach music like how I teach music, the outreach is limited because it's a one-to-one approach, and I
Mm-hmm.
only have that much time and space, right? So I'm trying to
Correct.
figure out an online syllabus so that the outreach. Anyway, that's a different story. But what I'm trying to say is, one of the things I've also been asked to think about is to collect data. Um,
Right.
yeah, I haven't quite figured out how yet. I need to sit down and think about how to collect data, as in what are the different criteria. Obviously, in the suttas,
Mm-hmm.
of course, there are already, these are the criteria of a good student, the marks of a good student,
Correct.
student-teacher relationship. That's all in the suttas, right? But what I'm interested in is to experiment, uh, you know, and again, I have a feeling that it may differ uh, between different cultures. I could be wrong. I'm more inclined to think that it may depend on what the children in that area are exposed to. Now, with the internet, there's
Mm-hmm.
probably less of a gap. So it's probably I'd say probably not so accurate for me to say like the children in this country are more exposed and the children in that country are less exposed. I dare not make that assumption. Um,
That's very kind of you.
yeah, but I do have a small feeling that the level of the children's level of understanding and absorption of the instructions
Mm-hmm.
might depend a lot on the environment that they are in and they
Yes, of
are
course.
exposed.
Makes sense. Yes,
Mm,
yes.
mm. But yeah, one of the things I'm meant to do, uh, two of the things that are weighing on my head at the moment is trying to come up with an online, excuse me, musicology syllabus, so that my outreach is a little bit wider.
Mm-hmm.
And to figure out a way to collect data. And these are two helicopter ideas I haven't quite started work on yet. Um, but yeah, I might, for the first one, I'm actually thinking of engaging in a lawyer to do a search on what's already existing out there. Because it makes more sense to do that first. I already have a
Right.
YouTube channel.
Uh-huh. I wanted to know what kind of data are you looking at?
So I've been talking to a decision science expert. So
Mm-hmm.
she's actually a certified, get this, I didn't know there was such a thing in the market until I met her. She's actually one out of 4 or 5 people in all of Australia that is a certified master neuroplastician. Did I get that right?
Wow.
Neuro. Yes, there is
Sounds impressive.
apparently this organization that I think is based in the US or the UK, I'm not sure, that
Mm-hmm.
they have a very rigorous, I've checked the website, I can't remember now the website, but they have different levels of kind of like how do you pronounce it? Accreditation? Oh, basically
Accreditation.
yeah, accreditation. Yeah, that's right. Where you can go through their course and then you can decide, you want to be at the basic level or the master level or something like that. And she's 1 out of 5 apparently in
Wow.
Australia. But she's not only that, she's done a PhD in decision science, but her focus is mainly on in the working environment, like out corporate world. Not only corporate,
Mhm.
can be NGOs, can be so she's like consultant, so people can hire her, and then she will conduct workshops using decision science or behavioral science methodologies and apply that. So it's a kind of like an applied psychology um,
Mhm.
to guide leadership so that there is more let's say more trust, more relationship building, more positive constructive feedback, ideally leading to more innovative creative thinking in a harmonious way, but in actual work settings. So that's her work. And so I've been talking to her a little bit. In fact, I actually recorded she runs a podcast series as well.
Mhm.
So she and I did a recording on what I do with music and kids last year, but it's being in the edit role at the moment. So once it's out, I'm sure I'll be sure to let you all know. Um, and she was the one when I started talking to her about what I was doing back in July, August last year. She said, uh, because she's pretty data driven herself, and she said, "Well, you should start collecting data," you know.
Mhm.
And so I
About
was
what?
like, "Hey,
You should start collecting data about what?
for what?" Um,
About what?
for example, what are the criteria for the different kids, what makes them be able to pick up instructions faster than others, Uh,
Okay.
initially it came from the conversation where I found like it's less now as I am more focused in my practice and how I teach. As I grow in that, it's better now. But I used to struggle a little bit, like some kids just won't be able to grasp even simple instructions. And when they are unable to do that, then it affects their progress. We use music as a tool, but it affects their progress in the music. And it's like a chicken and egg. So when they don't see themselves progress so much, then their motivation to practice goes down. When their motivation practice goes down, then they don't practice. If they don't practice, they don't progress. If they don't progress, again, their motivation goes. So it's a chicken and egg spiral
Correct.
that goes down, right?
Yeah.
And so I said to her, I don't understand, some of my students, they just go bam, 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 and then they just fly. You see them do not only well in music, but do well in every aspect. And they're not stressed out. They do well in school, they do well in science, they do well in math. And they're happy kids and they're responsible kids, right? And how come and I don't differentiate, like you come from this family, so I give you a different set of instructions. I give same instructions to everyone, right? It's just that we customize the instructions, uh, based on the child's level of understanding and their needs at the moment.
Correct.
Um, so, so then I said to Dr. Sam, I said, Samantha is her full name, but I said, Dr. Sam, I cannot understand why. And then she said, well, have you considered starting to collect some data, try and write down what it is, what are the criteria, what are the characteristics of children who are able to grasp. And we're not talking about their background or, whatever. We're talking about the characteristics, maybe their listening ability is better. Uh, Maybe they have less doubt in the instructions, whatever. I still work through with some students of mine, they still do have certain level of doubt. So nowadays, what I go to them is I said, okay, bring out all your questions. let's be upfront now. But this is after I've already worked hard at developing a level of trust. So they trust me now as a teacher. So then I would say, okay, come on, let's have it. All your questions, all your doubts, bring it all out. I'll answer them all. And if I can't answer them this week, I'll go do my homework and I'll answer it next week. And then I'm very honest with them. I said, reason I want you to bring out all your questions, I want to clear out all your doubts because I want you to progress faster. So when they understand that, it's the teacher is asking me to do this because the teacher really cares about my progress and the teacher really wants me to progress, then the trust is a little bit easier and then the
Of course,
questions come
yes.
out. But it takes a while. But as I progress in my own practice and as I again, chicken and egg, right? So I've noticed as I progress further in my practice, and when I bring, also I read, actually more like listen, so I'm an audible gal. Um, so as I read more and then I take some of the concepts or the ideas from, self-development gurus or entrepreneurs, but I'm very careful. So I do handpick who I listen to. So the ones that I'm currently a big fan of is Dan Sullivan and Joe Polish. So Dan Sullivan is actually 82 this year, I think, and still very much active running his strategic coaching business. Joe
82.
Polish, yeah, Joe Polish is 50, early 50s. And Joe Polish, he's a successful entrepreneur, but his methodologies and his mindset of doing business is very, very much centered around building positive connections, being generous without expecting things in return. Apart from running a very successful coaching network business called Genius Network, he is also running for not-for-profit something for addicts. So he's working with all different kind of addicts, drug addicts, um, alcohol addicts, all kinds of addicts. And he said, I was still listening to the book, and he was saying, I've met so many people in my life, successful people, entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires, addicts, everyone. And he said, people who made it easy. He's saying, don't get me wrong. It's not that I have anything against them, but he said, people who have had it easy their entire life and get to success easily, they don't really interest me. He said, I'm interested in the people who have been through the worst that could possibly happen in their lives, the worst trauma, the worst situations in their lives, yet they come out blooming as beautiful individuals. They have worked through all their trauma, all their challenges, come out even stronger, and are just beautiful at helping others, at being generous. He said, these are the people I'm curious. These are the people that I'm interested. I want to interview them and find out, how did you manage to work through all your trauma, work through all your challenges, even when no one else was supporting you? You came out from the deepest of, the deep. You come out as a beautiful human being and you're so eager to help others. He said, these are the people that I'm so curious, wanting to interview them all. That's what he said, So
That's beautiful.
so I try to, pick up stuff like that. I try to use
Always.
bits and pieces to share with my students. Of course, not all of them come around, but as I said to Dr. Sam, I said, one student at a time. And my principle or the way I see it is, it's easier to work on a child because they have less baggage, you see. Or that's what I think. So I work on a child who has less baggage. And if the child changes, then hopefully the parents, when they see their child undergo positive change so quickly, I'm hoping that the parent goes, gee, there must be something in this that, it can make my child go from an iPad addict to all of a sudden willing to exercise and do some homework. I must try and figure out what is going on. And I'm hoping that the parents will have that curious mindset, go, this must be something interesting. And then, of course, the child will start. I have some of my kids start, of course, they talk to their friends, yeah, especially those who also learn music, but also in general. And then, I'm like, last year, I think I had one of my, she's 14 now, I think. And so I share with her the three verbs, and then she noticed, oh, her maths has improved. She started scoring tops in her school. She got an award last year for technology as well. She got an award for music. So she started to see how this way of training the brain works, without a lot of stress, like still in a happy way. And then she asked me, can I share this with some of my friends? And initially I was a bit worried because, I am a little bit old school. And I remembered when Venerable Sister Kema used to teach us, she used to say, uh, if you really want to teach, you make sure you covered everything and you're very well versed before you decide to even, because she had her own experience, she used to say, right? Her first experience when Bhante Vimalaram says, okay, so now you can address your first group of students back in Indonesia that time at a retreat. And this was years after Venerable Sister Kema had already been following as a student, Bhante Vimalaram. This was years, when she finally was like, okay, I can do this. And she was like, oh, I got a shock of my life because it was like, didn't quite. So I remember that I took that into account. That's why I never say I'm a twin guide, because I'm not. Absolutely not. I call myself now a music educator. And I came up with this sentence, and I'm going to promote myself like this. So I coach kids. I coach kids to discover their learning superpowers. Okay. So I coach kids to discover their learning superpowers using music as a tool and neuroplasticity as a framework. So I came up with this sentence after much reflection, after listening to many books, and then I realized, yep, this is probably the best summary of what I do right now.
What
I
you
coach
do.
kids between the ages of 6 to 16. I coach kids between the ages of 6 to 16 to discover their learning superpowers using music as a tool and neuroplasticity as a framework. So that's what I do.
It's a good line. I think most people will end up asking questions about the last bit in that line.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that will drive some curiosity, and that's where the magic starts to happen. So anyway, I've been talking to Bhante Dhammagavesi a little bit. Initially, I had the idea to join the Goa retreat in January. That didn't happen. But I kept that idea to myself. But anyway, I will try to sign up for a retreat either December or January, either
Always a
Bangalore
good idea.
or Bangalore or Pune. I'm tipping towards Bangalore, simply because, and this may sound a little bit silly, but simply because I favor Bangalore's weather over Pune's weather. I'm so sorry.
It's perfectly understandable.
I love Bangalore weather. Um,
It's nice, of
so
course.
yeah, Pune is like raining cats and dogs half the time. So anyway, we shall see what happens. I'm putting it out to the universe there. So I'm hoping. But first, I need to get my back sorted. Otherwise, nothing's gonna happen. Okay. So All right. Sorry it took so long. Why am I talking so much? It shouldn't be about me. It's never about me. So sorry, everyone. And thank you so much, Madam Nanda, for all your good wishes. And yes, Pi, I have a YouTube channel that's a little bit defunct, but it's more my music teaching. But I'm trying to, make it active again. I have some ideas, and 2026 is gonna try and make something happen. Okay. So I'll leave with you all. I hope you all have a good week. And tomorrow I shall go and see the acupuncturist. Okay.
All
Have
right.
a good
Thank you.
weekend.
Are we
Have a
going
good
to
Bye-bye.
share
weekend.
the merit mail?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Almost forgot. Goodness me. We did some meditation. We did some Dhamma talk. We did some sharing together. So yes, very important. So let's do some sharing of merits as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do together. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share these merits that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, thank you for your patience today. I wish you all a good week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.